I must have been 6 or 7 when I lived in Lebanon. The country was ravaged by war at the time, and murders were common and frequent. I remember during a particularly vicious era when the bombings rarely stopped, I would stay at home sitting in front of my television watching a very, very strange show. It was a kid show that lasted about 30 minutes and contained strange and sinister images. To this day, I believe it was a thinly veiled attempt on the part of the media to use scare tactics to keep kids in place, because the moral of every episode revolved around very uptight ideologies, stuff like, bad kids stay up late, bad kids have their hands under the covers when they sleep, and bad kids steal food from the fridge at night. It was very weird and in Arabic to top it off. I didn't understand much of it, but for the most part the images were very graphic and comprehensive. The thing that stuck with me the most, however, was the closing scene. It remained much the same in every episode. The camera would zoom in on an old, rusted, closed door. As it got closer to the door, strange, and sometimes even agonizing screams would become more audible. It was extremely frightening, especially for children's programming. Then a text would appear on the screen in Arabic reading, "That's where bad kids go." Eventually both the image and the sound would fade out, and that would be the end of the episode. About 15 or 16 years later, I became a journalistic photographer. That show had been in my mind all my life, popping up in my thoughts sporadically. Eventually, I'd had enough, and decided to do some research. I finally managed to uncover the location of the studio where much of that channel's programming had been recorded. Upon further research and eventually traveling on site, I found out it was now desolate and had been abandoned after the big war ended. I entered the building with my camera. It was burnt out from the inside. Either a fire had broken out, or someone had wanted to incinerate all of the wooden furniture. After a few hours of cautiously making my way into the studio and snapping pictures, I found an isolated out-of-the-way room. After having to break through a few old locks and managing to break the heavy door open, I remained frozen in the doorway for several long minutes. Traces of blood, feces, and tiny bone fragments lay scattered across the floor. It was a small room and an extremely morbid scene. What truly frightened me, though, what made me turn away and never want to come back, was the bolted, caged microphone hanging from the roof in the middle of the room. You open your stinging eyes and look around this unfamiliar room. Laying in the large bed you observe this room. It's a normal, plain, clean room. It has a large bed, a window with white curtains, the door seems to be made out of wood and a closet. It has a drawer and a flat-screen TV on top of it, and lastly a white, colored wall and a bucket. Confused, you get out of the bed and attempt to open the door. It's locked. Surprised at this, you begin to explore this room. You open the drawers and to your surprise you find a remote control. You think to yourself, it must be for the TV. You turn on the TV and browse the channels. Oddly, there's only 3 channels in the TV. Each channel shows one show. Channel 1 only shows a wooden door, Channel 2 shows a tall white man staring into the camera, and Channel 3 only shows a boring game of baseball. You turn off the TV and look at the window. You desperately walk up to the window hoping to see anything that can tell off where the hell you are. You move the curtains aside. To your surprise, the only thing outside the window is nothing. Outside of the window is just pitch black. You assume the darkness goes on forever, and as a matter of fact, it does. You finally think about your family and close friends. Do they know I'm here? Am I going to die? Did I get kidnapped? Will I ever see them again? And the most frightening question your mind can possibly conjure, will I stay here forever? Your eyes begin to water at the thought of never seeing any of your close and personal relatives and friends. Still, you do not refuse to stay here forever. You open up the closet and find a small kitchen knife. You grab the knife and start to jab the knife into the door. After several attempts to damage the door, you stop and step back. The door is completely unscathed. In anger, you throw the knife at the wall and start hitting the door ferociously. After what seems like hours of rage, you stop hitting the door and lay on the bed and rest. You wake up again and look around the room. Everything went back to the way it was when you woke up. The knife is no longer on the floor where you threw it, but in the closet, exactly where it was, not a centimeter further. You begin to panic, and to yourself you think, did someone come in while I was asleep? You begin to think your kidnappers are playing tricks on you. They must have a camera lying around here somewhere. You check behind the TV, under the bed, and all the drawers, but there seems to be no camera. Again you turn on the TV and flip through the channels, and again they're giving the same thing. You look at the bucket on the floor and start to urinate. Oddly, you don't feel hunger, or possibly you are too afraid to think about the emptiness of your stomach. Either way, there seems to be no food. There's just too much boredom for you to cope with, and eventually you start talking to yourself. After days repeating this dull, never-ending routine, you finally decide to kill yourself. It's the only way out, you say to yourself. Anything is better than this. Shaking, you grab the knife and proceed to stab yourself. The steel knife, going deep into your flesh, is just too much pain for you to handle, and eventually you quit. Bleeding, you stumble and lay in the bed. You think you will eventually die of blood loss, so you close your eyes and drift to sleep. You wake up and quickly take off your clothes, and to your horrifying surprise you see no flesh wounds. You completely recovered. You look around the room, all the hope you had left just got stripped out of you. Complete sorrow fills your empty eyes, and you begin to shake like you've been naked in the cold alone. Complete insanity fills your mind, and you begin to think of bizarre ways to kill yourself. You fill the bucket with urine and put your whole head inside the bucket and drown. You wake up. You quickly get off your bed, run straight into the wall, and bash your head against the wall. You crack your skull and die. You wake up. You open the closet, grab the knife and jab it into your Adam's apple. You wake up. Finally you realize that killing yourself is not an option. You start trying to find any way to try to get out of this room. As you lay in the bed, finding a way to get out of this room, you look at the window and quickly hop off the bed. With all your force you begin to attempt to open up the window. You attempt over dozens of times and it just won't open. It's stuck. You sit at the end of the bed and cry your eyes out. You tried everything. You begin to accept this as part of your life until you die. No more family, no more friends, no more surprises, no more drama, no more talking to friends, no more catching up with your family. You clench your fist and let out a loud scream of rage. You punch violently onto the door, while thinking all the things you will never do with your own family and with other people. You stop and silently cry yourself to sleep. You wake up and turn on the TV and flip to channel 2. The tall white man is crying this time, startled and confused. You stay there looking at the TV. He stares at you while wiping his tears from his face. He lets out a scream. I fucking hate this place. The surprisingly loud scream makes you fall out of your bed. Your ears begin to bleed. The man continues to scream and scream. But you can't take it. You go up to the flat-screen TV and punch it. The force you put into that punch was so strong that it managed to break the screen entirely. Weak and your arms bleeding, you see a note hidden inside the TV. It looks old, like it's been through the Golden Age, the Holocaust, even the time where Jesus Christ himself died. You grab this note, waiting to see its everlasting wisdom, hoping it would at least tell you where you are. You slowly unfold this note of hope, this note of knowledge and secrets. You fully open the note. Even the little bit of hope you have left has been stripped out of your body. Your eyes fill with sorrow, your eyes water, your stomach sinks in a never-ending abyss, your eyes sting, your heart skips a mile. What you read on the note is the most frightening thing that you can possibly make up. Welcome to the afterlife.